I was sidelined by my family's favoritism toward my adopted sister until her shocking true identity was revealed at my birthday party. Family trouble has plagued me, 35F. For as long as I can remember, but recent events have now gotten to the breaking point. I feel like I'm drowning in hurt, uncertainty, and hatred right now. So I'm hoping anyone who has experienced a similar circumstance may offer some guidance or insight to put things in perspective. My adopted sister, 34F, is just 1 year younger than myself. She was adopted by our parents when she was a newborn, and I have spent my entire childhood with her. That would seem to bring us together like a couple. But the truth is far from that romantic notion. It was evident from my very first recollections that our parents gave preference to my sister. They lavished her with attention, gave her everything she desired, and appeared to listen intently to everything she said. When I proudly showed my mother a sketch I had done when I was 5 years old, she dismissed me since my sister was reciting the alphabet for the 100th time. Although it might not seem like much, it was a sign of a pattern that would shape our family's dynamics for many years to come. The distance between us just got wider as we got older. My sister had trouble reading in elementary school, and our parents worked with her for hours every night. Even though I did exceptionally well in school, I seldom ever got more than a passing, "good job," on my report cards. My sister had a dance recital in middle school, so my parents were not there at the awards ceremony when I won the science fair. That was always the case. Her wants, accomplishments, and hardships all came before mine. I don't want to imply that I was abused or neglected in the conventional sense. Our fundamental necessities were always satisfied, including having a roof over our heads and food on the table. However, the emotional neglect was genuine and extremely distressing. Early on, I discovered that being flawless, achieving, and excelling were the only ways to garner any attention in our home. So I did just that. With an almost obsessive zeal, I immersed myself in my studies. In high school, I was cooped up in my room preparing for AP exams and filling out my college applications while my sister was out at parties and hanging out with friends. It was worthwhile. I received a half scholarship to a prestigious university. This will finally make my parents proud, I thought. However, instead of applauding my accomplishment on the day I departed for college, they fussed more about how my sister would handle my absence. College was enlightening. I was evaluated entirely on my own merits, not in relation to my sister. For the first time in my life, I made true friends who appreciated me for who I was, and I flourished both socially and academically. I obtained a position at a prominent company after graduating with honors. With unwavering resolve, I ascended the corporate ladder during the ensuing 10 years. My inner voice, which still yearned for my parents' praise, propelled me to every advancement and accomplishment. I'm pleased with what I've accomplished and currently work for a Fortune 500 firm in a senior management role. However, that pride is constantly laced with resentment because my family never seems to be satisfied with whatever I achieve. In contrast, my sister has never truly settled into a profession and has alternated between jobs. She still resides with our parents, who provide her with both emotional and financial support. My parents may have been pleased by my accomplishment, but it appears that it has just strengthened their partiality for my sister. They constantly offer justifications for her lack of focus, such as, "She's just trying to find her passion," or, "Not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder to be happy." At the same time, if my achievements are recognized at all, they are frequently greeted with a lackluster "Congrats." Our family relationships have been damaged in every way because of this dynamic. Family get-togethers are a minefield of barely veiled bitterness and passive-aggressive remarks. I've made an effort to discuss my feelings with my parents, but they consistently brush them off as envious or too sensitive. As for my sister, she seems to take great pride in her preferred position and frequently makes disparaging comments about me being married to my job, or Too busy for family. I've been in therapy for years in an attempt to resolve these problems, boost my self-esteem, and establish sound boundaries. But every encounter with my family seems to set me back regardless of how much progress I've made. I've thought of severing all connections, but it would be devastating to lose my family, dysfunctional as they are. This leads me to last week's events, which have caused me to reevaluate every aspect of my relationships with my family. As is customary, our parents threw my sister a lavish birthday celebration. Friends, extended family, and even some of her former classmates were invited, with catered food, an open bar, and even a live band. The house was decorated as though it were a wedding ceremony. As a comparison, last month's birthday was celebrated with a little dinner for the four of us, during which most of the discussion focused on my sister's most recent business venture, a pet-related social media app that she believes will be the next big thing. After approximately 2 minutes, my parents' eyes drifted away as I attempted to discuss a significant project I'm overseeing at work. I made an effort to blend in at the party. I tried my best to encourage my sister on her special day by interacting with family members in a courteous manner and striking up little conversations. However, as the evening went on, I sensed the old bitterness rising within me. It wasn't just the extravagant celebration, it was also the way our parents showered her with praise. How family members inquired about her life while hardly noticing mine, and how she absorbed all the attention as if it were her natural inheritance. In an attempt to calm the anxiety attack I could see coming on, I found myself withdrawing to a corner and drinking a glass of wine. When she saw how upset I was, a cousin came to see how I was doing. With sincere concern in her voice, she inquired, "Are you okay?" For the first time that evening, someone had taken the effort to inquire about my well-being. I started to reply, but my sister's voice broke through the throng before I could. She raised her voice and tapped her glass with a spoon, saying, "Attention everyone, I'd like to make a toast." As everyone's attention was drawn to my sister, the room became quiet. She was a little shaky on her feet and her cheeks were flushed, which indicated that she had consumed a significant amount of alcohol. As she began her address, she was still able to put on a convincing smile. Initially, it appeared to be a standard birthday greeting. She toasted our parents for their love and support, thanked everyone for attending, and conveyed her appreciation for the celebration. Her tone then shifted, and I got a shiver down my back. She said, "I'm especially grateful to Mom and Dad," with a tone of voice that I had never heard before. "I've always received greater treatment from them than their own daughter. Just take a peek at this celebration. When was the last time they threw my sister a party like this?" As everyone in the room turned to stare at me, I felt my face heat up, but my sister wasn't finished. "But I guess that's because I've always been the better daughter," she added, sounding a little slurred by the champagne. "Yes, my sister has a nice career and makes a lot of money, but who do Mom and Dad truly love in the end? Who makes their life happier? It's not the icy, work-driven automaton who hardly has time for family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing and was still. With the exception of a few painful coughs and my sister's voice, which seemed to get louder by the second, the room had become eerily quiet. She said, "You know, it's funny," with a tiny wobble. Everyone constantly praised my sister's intelligence and her potential for success. But look at us now. I'm here with family and friends who genuinely care about me while she's by herself, married to her job. I turned to our parents in the hopes that they would intervene and put an end to this vicious act. However, they only sat there, appearing uneasy and doing nothing to stop it. I had never felt more alone in my life than I did at that precise time. My sister continued to babble, criticizing every element of my life, including my appearance. The fact that I didn't have a romantic partner, and even the suggestion that I succeeded in my work by sleeping my way to the top. I felt myself getting smaller with every word. Years of repressed hurt and rage threatening to blow up. My aunt, our mother's sister, stepped up just as I was about to burst into tears and thought I could take no more. She had a determined and angry expression on her face. I was standing when she approached and gave me an envelope. Her voice broke the tension in the room as she stated, "Don't open this until I'm done talking." Her eyes were flaming as she turned to face the throng. The scene that followed resembled a scene from a soap opera. According to my aunt, my sister wasn't taken from a foster home, she was her biological daughter. It seems that my aunt wasn't prepared to become a mother when she became pregnant suddenly in her early 20s. She requested my parents to adopt the child instead of ending the pregnancy. My aunt continued, "I thought I was doing the right thing," her voice trembling with passion. "I believed that my sister and her husband would provide a better life for my child. I believed she would develop into a nice, caring person who was appreciative of her life. However, she then turned to face my sister, who had turned completely white. Instead, you've developed into a conceited, self-centered brat who believes it's acceptable to make fun of her sister in public. I've watched this familial dynamic unfold for years, and I can no longer keep quiet about it." Chaos broke out in the room. Screaming, my sister demanded to know whether it was true. Our parents were shooting daggers at my aunt while attempting to soothe her. Family members were pointing and muttering. And me? I felt as though the earth had vanished from beneath me as I stood there gripping the envelope. Once more, my aunt's voice broke through the cacophony. My aunt expressed her disappointment, saying, "I always thought that if my daughter was being raised by my sister, she would grow up to be a wonderful person. But obviously, I was mistaken. No good person would ever attempt to make their sister look as bad as you just did." Then, turning to face me, she instructed me to open the packet. There was a blank check inside. My aunt told me, "Fill in whatever amount you want. I had planned to give this to her as a birthday gift, but after seeing how she's turned out, I have no interest in rewarding that behavior." My aunt then left, leaving a startled quiet behind her. It was short-lived. In an attempt to take the check out of my hands, my sister lunged at me. She was so hysterical that our parents had to physically restrain her, as she shouted and sobbed. It was more than I could handle. I fled to my room, shut the door, and sobbed. Years of suppressing my hurt and bitterness and feeling inferior came rushing out. I ignored the banging on my door and the muted arguments coming from downstairs while I sobbed for hours. A week has passed, and I'm still unsure about what to do. With the exception of necessities, I have not left my room despite our parents' attempts to speak with me. I find it difficult to confront them. My sister has alternated between begging for forgiveness, and the check, of course, and sending me angry messages. There's a part of me that wants to cash that check, go, and never return. I've tried all my life to win the love and acceptance of people who don't seem to be able to give it to me. Perhaps I should give up trying. Perhaps it's time for me to prioritize myself. However, I also have a fear of losing my family. Despite their dysfunction, they are the only family I have ever known. It's terrifying to consider living without them, going on vacation by yourself, and having no one to call in case of an emergency. In addition, I'm experiencing a lot of mixed feelings regarding my sister. On the one hand, I'm upset with her for her actions during the party and for years of subtly insulting me. However, I can't help but feel a little sorry for her. It must be really upsetting to learn that you're adopted, especially in such a humiliating and public manner. Does that justify her actions? Not at all. However, it makes matters more difficult. Regarding my parents, I find it hard to comprehend how they could have watched while my sister sobbed at me. Were they simply taken aback? Or does their lack of response reveal their true feelings for me? Years of emotional neglect and favoritism. How can I even start? I feel as though I'm at a fork in the road, and I'm unsure of which way to go. Should I make an effort to repair these damaged relationships? Can something wholesome be constructed from such a poisonous base? Or do I go on and attempt to start over, one in which I'm not always looking for unfulfilled approval? Reddit, I'm lost. I've tried my entire life to gain the love and acceptance of my family, only to be rejected and humiliated in the process. From here, how do I proceed? Should I accept that certain families cannot be repaired, or is there any chance for reconciliation? Any insight or counsel would be greatly valued. I feel as though I'm drowning in hurt and confusion, and I'm no longer sure which way is up. First update. 2 days have passed since the terrible birthday celebration, and I'm still getting over it all. My aunt came to visit me this morning. As she continued to discuss the adoption, she appeared worn out. When she became pregnant, she was young and afraid. It seemed like the ideal option for my parents, who had been trying for another child. To keep everyone safe, they decided to keep it a secret. For years, she had been accumulating money with the intention of transferring it to my sister when she was ready to be self-sufficient. She came to the realization that I was more deserving after the party. She gave me an empty check. I felt both guilty for taking something intended for my sister and justified that someone recognized the unfair treatment. Despite my attempts to decline, my aunt persisted, claiming it was back pay for emotional labor. That evening, I decided something. I checked into a hotel across town, packed my luggage, and left my folks a note. I needed time to reflect. I ignored the calls and messages from my relatives. Throughout the course of the following several days, I performed some introspection, talked to my therapist, and sought advice from a financial advisor regarding the check. I sent my folks an email 5 days later. I assured them I needed time but was secure. I laid out my requirements for mending our relationship. They had to admit to the years of partiality. All of us had to go to family therapy. My sister had to apologize in public. They had to start treating us equally, and they had to cease condoning her actions. They instantly responded that they were relieved and asked me to come home so we could discuss. We decided to get together at a cafe close to my hotel. It was a stressful encounter. My parents agreed to treatment and pledged to improve our ties as if they were sorry. They expressed reluctance to publicly apologize for my sister's adoption, claiming it was traumatic. I refused to back down and insisted that she issue a public apology for her actions. With an uneasy truce, we departed. Everything but the public apology was approved by my parents, who indicated they would talk to my sister about it. Over the following few days, the negotiations went on. At first, my sister sent irate messages and refused to apologize. But as I persisted, her tone started to shift. She apologized via text, saying she was unhappy and intoxicated at the party. I retorted that the apology should not only be for the party event but also for years of nasty behavior. More irate texts followed. And then there was stillness. My parents attempted to mediate the situation by offering solutions like a written statement or an apology limited to the family. I was conflicted as this went on. There was a part of me that wanted to be forceful and insist on the respect I so well earned. Another part wondered if fighting was worth it because it was so exhausting. I was reminded by my therapist that putting my health first is not selfish. Setting boundaries, she stated, is necessary for healthy relationships. I've made the decision to offer my family one final opportunity to comply with my demands. I'll use my aunt's check to start over somewhere else, away from family strife and past hurts. If they are unable to, I'm feeling both nervous and optimistic as I get ready to give this order. Whatever occurs will influence my life and relationships in the future. I'm hoping I'm making the correct decision. I will update you. I appreciate everyone's support. Knowing that I'm not fighting this battle alone is reassuring. Second update. Since my last update, which was a week ago, things have drastically changed. I've made the decision to revoke the terms I established for reconciliation, but not for the reasons you may expect. After arguing with my family for days, I came to the conclusion that their attempts at compromise were more about minimizing the harm than showing sincere regret. Increasingly manipulative. My sister's apology texts alternated between gaslighting and guilt-tripping. "You're tearing this family apart. she'd write. Then, I don't even remember what I said at the party. Are you sure you're not exaggerating? In the meantime, my parents persisted in trying to reach a solution that seemed to ignore the true problems rather than deal with them. They objected to the concept of admitting their part in creating this unhealthy relationship, and instead proposed a private family gathering where my sister would provide an apology. I started to lose sleep, check my phone frequently, and get nervous whenever it buzzed. As the pressure increased, it became evident that my mental health was suffering as a result of this negotiation. At that point, I decided to remove my conditions, not because I believe they are irrational, but rather because I now understand that meaningful change cannot be coerced or negotiated. My family just isn't there yet, and it must originate internally. I wrote my parents a quick email. I'm rescinding my previous conditions. I need space and time to heal. Please respect my wishes and don't contact me for a while. They reacted with astounding speed. The volume of calls, texts, and voicemails on my phone surged. I had to ask security to take them out of my office once they arrived. They also reached out to a few of my pals in an attempt to persuade me to return home. We love you. Please come home. How can you do this to us? And, your sister is devastated. She's not eating. Or among the desperate, angry, and manipulative texts they sent. Emotional warfare has been going on nonstop. Sometimes, the guilt is unbearable. Sometimes, I question whether I'm exaggerating or whether I should just go home and try to forget everything. However, I also recall the years I spent feeling invisible, having my accomplishments disregarded, and seeing my sister consistently given preference. To assist me in dealing with the stress, I've started going to my therapist twice a week. By borrowing my family's phone numbers and configuring email filters, she has been assisting me in establishing boundaries. Although it seems drastic, it's essential for my mental health at the moment. My workplace has turned into a haven for me. To avoid returning to my empty flat, I've poured myself into tasks and stayed late at work. Some of my coworkers have expressed concern after noticing the difference in me. Even if I can't adequately describe the circumstances, I appreciate their support. I still haven't paid my aunt's check, though, as a continual reminder of the decision I must make. It rests in my desk drawer, to show that I don't need their money or approval. I feel like tearing it up. Some view it as a lifeline, an opportunity to start over somewhere new. I'd begun looking at employment prospects in other cities and even other nations. It is both exciting and frightening to consider a whole transformation. Was it truly possible for me to start afresh and leave everything behind? I'm taking things day by day. For the time being, I'm getting better at accepting the unease that comes with uncertainty, and having faith that I'll know what to do when the time comes. Certain days are more difficult than others. Sometimes, I miss my family so terribly that it hurts my body. However, there are also unexpectedly peaceful moments when I notice that my breathing is easier than it has been in years. I am aware that this journey is far from finished. There will be more emotional obstacles to conquer and more challenging choices to make, but I'm prioritizing myself for the first time in my life. It feels right, but it's also unpleasant and uncomfortable. I appreciate all of your ongoing help and guidance. Having this place to process and share is more important than you may realize. When I have more to report, I'll provide another update. I'm concentrating on getting better and finding my identity outside of my family's shadow in the interim. Third update. 3 weeks have passed since my last report, and things have significantly worsened. When my sister unexpectedly showed up at the door last Saturday while we were visiting my aunt, we were taken aback. She stormed in, obviously drunk and furious, yelling, "You've ruined everything! You are attempting to take my life after stealing my mother!" The stench of alcohol was overpowering, and her eyes were crazy. My aunt and I had to hold her back as she lunged at me. Allegations were made by my sister, who said I had always been envious and had turned everyone against her. Even after everything that had transpired, the hatred in her voice was startling. I was shocked by my aunt's response. Her normally composed manner had vanished. "You need to leave now," she said forcefully, her face hardening as she dragged my sister out of the house. My sister resumed her tirade outside, attracting neighbors' attention. "My mother is not you!" I heard her shout at my aunt. "I was exposed to you. You can no longer act as though you care." A few of the neighbors threatened to contact law enforcement. My sister eventually pulled away in her automobile. My aunt was clearly shaken. Within, she revealed that she struggled with guilt over the adoption during our hours-long conversation. She had believed that telling the truth would fix things. But she now understood that the harm was much more extensive. "I believed I was acting appropriately," she muttered. "However, I might have just made things messy for everyone." Wide-ranging effects have resulted from the occurrence. Later, my parents called in a rage, accusing me of trying to ruin our family and inciting my aunt against my sister. I tried to explain things to them, but they refused. Members of the extended family have taken sides, causing the family to become severely divided. What started as a private issue has turned into a full-fledged family conflict. The intensity of it all overwhelms me. I feel guilty even though I know it's not my fault. But I also want to withdraw and start over somewhere else. Because of my sister's condition, my aunt is worried about my safety and has proposed that I remain with her for a bit. I'm thinking about it, but I'm afraid it could make things worse. I'm making an effort to remain somewhat normal throughout this ordeal. I try to look after myself, go to work, and see my therapist. However, this familial conflict is a continual burden. I wonder if this will have any repercussions. Is it possible for a family to overcome such ingrained animosity and rage? Is it better to give up? Or is it worth trying? I'm trying to avoid getting pulled back into the pandemonium, and I'm concentrating on my recovery. For the time being, even though it's difficult, I'm committed to finding a solution, whether or not my family is on board. I appreciate your unwavering support, everyone. You don't realize how much it matters. When I can, I'll provide another update, ideally with more positive news. Update 4. A month has passed since my last update, and I've made some decisions that will change my life. I came to the realization that I needed to take immediate action to safeguard my mental health and create a future for myself. Following the tumultuous incident with my sister at my aunt's place, I've poured myself fully into my profession, asking my supervisor if I may move to another location to work for our company or take on more responsibility. I was surprised by how supportive she was. I'm currently in the running for a senior management job that would take me across the nation. It's thrilling as well as frightening, along with the opportunity to oversee a large project. The new position offers a substantial wage increase. To get ready for this change, I've been working 12-hour days, going to every training session I can, and networking frantically. My increased zeal has sparked curiosity among my coworkers, but I've been able to sidestep most inquiries. A few close coworkers are well aware of my predicament and have been tremendously helpful. Regarding the money part, I ultimately decided on my aunt's check. I made the decision to cash it after giving it a lot of thought and spoke with a financial advisor. I was able to reframe it as an investment in my future, one free from toxic family dynamics. With the assistance of my therapist, I've secured an apartment in my prospective city, with a view of the city skyline. It's a compact, contemporary space. I've put the remainder into a diversified portfolio. I feel autonomous and financially secure for the first time in my life. The final separation from my family has been the most difficult aspect. All of their phone numbers and email addresses have been blocked by me. I've requested that my aunt not forward any of their texts. I know it's essential for my recovery, but it's been excruciating, like cutting off a piece of myself. Of course, there are periods of uncertainty. I occasionally feel inclined to phone late at night in an attempt to make amends. However, I then recall the years of gaslighting, the ongoing sense of inferiority, and the violent altercation at my aunt's house. It makes me more determined to keep going. I recently began seeing a new therapist who focuses on estrangement and familial trauma. She has been assisting me in overcoming my sadness and guilt to replace the family-centered customs I've left behind. We're concentrating on establishing a new network of support and developing new ones. Additionally, I've joined a support group for those who are separated from their relatives. It has been both upsetting and consoling to hear their stories. I've learned that I'm not the only one going through this and that you can have a happy life without the family you were born into. Regarding my aunt, we have kept up our friendship while setting clear limits. She doesn't try to act as a mediator and accepts my decision to break off contact with the rest of the family. Although her assistance has been priceless, I'm careful not to rely on her too much. I feel a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension about the future. Though intimidating, the idea of starting over in a new place with a demanding new job and no family safety net is also freeing. I feel, for the first time, that I am living my life according to my own terms, free from societal norms and familial expectations. I've begun pursuing new interests and pastimes that I never had time for while I was preoccupied with family matters. I've joined a local hiking group, I'm learning how to cook, and I'm even thinking about painting. I've not felt this at peace in years. As I pack up my flat and get ready for this new phase, yes, I am saddened by what I have lost, but I am also hopeful about the future. I'm no longer the neglected kid or the family scapegoat. I am only me, paving my own way. I want to thank everyone for their support along this journey. You have no idea how much your words of support have meant. My last update will be this one. I should put this chapter behind me and concentrate on writing the next one. Good luck to me. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My parents and golden child sister ditched me on my 15th birthday, so I threw a fake party with their work friends and exposed the truth. I celebrated my 15th birthday 3 days ago, but things didn't go as expected. On the morning of my birthday, my parents enthusiastically informed me that they had planned a surprise family trip to the Poconos. I was ecstatic since, as the less important younger sibling, I rarely get surprises like this. I was quite happy. However, a few hours later, when I finished packing and walked downstairs with my bag, I discovered that my parents had already left. Only my older sister, Alex, 17F, the golden child, was there for me. She smiled, so I knew something was wrong. When I questioned what was going on, she said I didn't need to pack my things and could go back upstairs to unpack. I assumed the trip had been cancelled, but she informed me that there would be no family vacation for me and handed me a sheet of paper with a list of responsibilities. I was perplexed until she stated that my parents and she had agreed that, despite the fact that they had surprised me with the vacation that morning, they had a debate. And Alex believed it would be best for me to stay home and study because our finals were approaching. She, of course, got to leave because she had completed her assignments. If I became bored, I could do household tasks. Then she chuckled and said I should thank her for giving me time to study rather than spending it with our family. I was so wounded that all I could do was inquire where our parents were. Alex informed me that she had already dispatched them to the airport and had stayed behind to tell me in person as a birthday gift to me. She explained that my parents couldn't bring themselves to break my heart, so they let Alex give the news, which she obviously loved. I knew she enjoyed embarrassing me. I returned upstairs with my things, resisting the impulse to cry in front of her. After hearing the front door close, I broke down and cried for an hour. Alex had always despised me, and I knew my parents would always support her, but I never expected them to be so harsh, particularly on my birthday. After I cooled down, I became enraged. I had texted my pals earlier, explaining that I couldn't hang out due to the trip, and now I was trapped at home alone. So, I decided to get revenge on my folks and Alex. I went to my father's office and used his MacBook to discover essential contacts. I called everyone and invited them to a surprise anniversary party for my parents that evening. Because I was only a child, the majority of them agreed to attend, thinking it was charming. I did the same for my mother's contacts, and because neither of them had password-protected devices. It was simple. Then, I decided to text Alex's boyfriend on Instagram, inviting him to the party that evening. I also invited my own friends and had them help me decorate the house to make it look like a party. Around 7 p.m., the visitors I had invited began to arrive. But they were surprised to see that my parents were not present. I kept telling them it was a surprise and they'd find out what was going on later. After all of the guests had come, and we had taken a group shot, I decided to carry out my plan. I informed the guests where my parents were and how they treated me. I explained how my parents always did everything Alex said and how I was treated like Cinderella. I had never discussed any of this before that day. I told how my parents had abandoned me on my birthday without even trying to explain in person since Alex thought it was the appropriate thing to do. Many people were startled because my parents presented themselves as lovely and decent. However, respectable people do not do this to their children. After I completed telling my narrative, I explained that this was exactly why I organized the party, to expose my parents and sister. Finally, I showed them the chore list Alex had left for me. I could see Alex's boyfriend standing in the corner, stunned because he had not realized Alex had such a vicious side. Everyone was silent following my remarks. People eventually began to leave. Some without saying anything, while others approached me to console me before leaving. The only thing I felt guilty about was wasting their time, but I was not too concerned. After everyone had left, I texted the group photo to my parents and Alex with the following caption. Had some people over for my birthday party today. I believe I'll start with the list Alex left me. It was a fantastic strategy. My parents reacted quickly after I sent the message, insisting that I solve everything right away and informing me that they would be returning on the next aircraft. I blocked them all and went to my closest friend Fiona's house with my belongings, knowing that my home was no longer mine. Fiona and her parents were lovely people who always said their doors were open, so I decided to take them up on their offer. I had no idea how long they could sustain me, but I was pleased they opened their home so generously on my birthday. I did not hear from my parents, but the next day they went to Fiona's place. Nobody was shocked that I had decided to stay with Fiona, as we had been best friends since childhood. When they arrived, Fiona's parents refused to let them in, claiming they had no business trying to talk to me after I'd made it obvious I was not interested. However, my parents began to threaten legal action against Fiona's parents. I was afraid. So I told them to invite my folks in and I'd be ready to chat. My folks were infuriated. They said I had no right to contact their business associates because their reputation was already tarnished. None of their coworkers or associates were ready to speak with them anymore, and some had even blocked my mother and father. They blamed me for this, which was understandable given that I planned the entire operation. I informed them that if they had been kind and not insulted me on my birthday, I would not have done this. I ended up yelling at them for always treating me worse than Alex, saying to them they had ruined my life and that I would never forgive them. Things became quite hot, and we were all yelling at each other so fiercely that Fiona's parents had to intercede. Fiona had to take me out of the room to help me calm down. When I finally calmed down, her parents approached me and told me that my parents had departed. They also told me that my parents would not be able to speak with me until I was ready to face them. Then Fiona's parents advised me to pursue legal action, such as emancipation, because it had become evident that my parents couldn't care less about me. They felt it was time I cut them out of my life for good. After discussing this with Fiona's parents, I decided to consult a lawyer, and we are currently considering emancipation. I'm still perplexed because this is a big decision and I don't want to regret it in the future. However, At the current rate, I doubt I will. Yesterday, my parents contacted me again about my choice. Last evening, I received an email from my parents, which I recognized based on the address. I tried hard not to open it, but curiosity got the best of me, and I read it. They began by saying that the reason they surprised me with the vacation was that one of my father's clients had opened a new spa and resort in the Poconos, which was a bonus for my father. He had chosen to seize the opportunity around the same time as my birthday. However, when Alex mentioned my exams, they didn't want my grades to suffer simply because I went on vacation with them. They couldn't believe I had misinterpreted the situation and attempted to get revenge on them for it. They stated it made them feel like they had failed to raise me properly. According to them, Alex was simply attempting to be a nice, caring big sister, and there was no reason for me to overreact. It was all rubbish, and I was quite irritated. I almost gave up reading halfway through. But the second portion was about how furious they were that I had included others in our family drama and aired our dirty laundry in public. They stated that they never expected or wanted this to happen. They said that if I had just spoken to them directly about my concerns, they might have been able to resolve them. Instead, I took such harsh measures. They conceded that Alex's list of responsibilities was excessive, but they stated I should have called and questioned them about it. They said that if they had known I felt excluded, they would have returned right away. They insisted that the manner I handled the matter was unexpected, and they felt awful about it. They said that it was an unfortunate mistake that had been blown out of control. They want me to talk to them and work things out, but I'm not sure what I want to do. I have extremely mixed thoughts about this. Please help me. Am I the jerk for holding a party and exposing my parents to their coworkers and business associates after they ignored me while on vacation? Update 1. Okay. So most of you believe that what I did was perfectly acceptable and that they deserved it. Therefore, I have nothing to apologize for. I've decided not to apologize. I disabled the email address they used to contact me so they couldn't reach me again. I know they may build a new one and try to contact me, but I'll just continue to block them. I've decided that regardless of what they say, I will not answer or even read it. It's simply not worth it. It will only exacerbate my problems. As for emancipation, I've chosen to go for it. It's a big deal, and I know I'm still young, but Fiona and her parents have guaranteed me that they'll be by my side no matter what happens. They even offered to formally adopt me if it would make me feel more comfortable, which it could, but I haven't considered it yet. We are now simply working on emancipation, and the paperwork is being completed as we speak. I'm not sure how my parents will respond because, when they wrote me the email, I could tell they were unhappy that I'd chosen to live with Fiona and her parents. This makes little sense to me because, based on how I've been treated throughout my life, it's clear that they don't want me around as much as they want Alex. That is evident to me, but they are still attempting to reach out, which is perplexing. I have a feeling they only want me back to improve their reputation and image, nothing else. Right now, all I can do is wait for them to receive the emancipation paperwork and see how they respond. It's been a few days since my post, and they haven't contacted me again after that email, so I'm not sure how they're feeling right now. I know things can't be going well for them because many people attended the party, and I've heard from others that Alex and her boyfriend split up. No one knows why but me. Update 2. My parents received the documentation for my formal emancipation a few days ago, and they were not pleased, which surprised me. They phoned Fiona's parents, and there was a heated argument. Apparently, my parents assumed Fiona's family had set me up and were controlling me, believing I wasn't acting on my own free will. This didn't make sense to me. Do they know how terribly they've treated me in the past? Of course, I am doing this of my own accord. I had anticipated this type of reaction following my previous posts. As many of you pointed out that they merely wanted me back to maintain their image as a happy family. They probably assumed everything I said during the party was simply me being bratty. When I didn't return to them, It enraged them because I was finally standing up for myself, and they couldn't take it. Unfortunately, this is already happening. They can call Fiona's parents whatever they want, but it won't change the fact that they deserve it, and they no longer deserve to be my parents. Fiona told me that my parents called her parents every term in the book and threatened to take them to court, stating they had no right to subject me to this. They also threatened to injure them, which is ridiculous because it is prohibited and will just make them appear worse. The way they spoke to Fiona's parents only confirmed what I already knew. They don't want me back out of love but rather to improve their image. Fiona's parents were accused of attempting to destroy my parents' reputation by portraying themselves as saviors and revealing to the world that I had been abused. My parents vowed that they would not let that happen. They complained about how I was an entitled brat and that, by supporting me, Fiona's parents were demonstrating that they were unsuitable to be parents themselves. If my parents truly loved me as a daughter, they would be more concerned about my well-being and would make an effort to communicate with me directly. Instead, they're shrieking at Fiona's parents, saying that they're trying to ruin their reputation. The thought that Fiona's parents would wish to ruin my parents is absurd. They only know each other through Fiona and me, so they have no motivation to compete. Furthermore, there's no comparison. Fiona's parents are far more prosperous, caring, and sympathetic. My parents are so anxious about their image that they believe Fiona's parents are like them, incapable of actually caring for me and simply out to pull them down. I urgently want to inform my parents that Fiona's family isn't just pretending to be my saviors, they actually are. I needed to be saved from my parents. And if they had just realized it in the first place, they would have apologized for what they had done rather than attempting to create even more drama. But Fiona and her parents have given me specific instructions not to contact them no matter how tempted I am, since it isn't worth it. I know they received the phone call from my parents a few days ago, and after arguing with them over the phone and giving me only the information they believed was vital for me to know, they informed me that they had recorded the call. My parents were extremely ignorant, since this tape may be used as proof of why I deserve to be freed from them. They also asked me to consider whether I wanted them to legally adopt me or not. I ended up saying yes because I truly like them, and I know it will irritate my parents even more. But that isn't the major reason. It's largely because I believe they are really kind-hearted and great people, and having Fiona as my sister will be a bonus, so I'm totally in. They informed me that they will speak with the lawyer again to begin the paperwork for that as well, as it may help with my emancipation case. Knowing that I have better people to depend on and live with, to be honest, this is only getting better, and I am very grateful to them. Update 3. Hello? Something terrible occurred today. Long story short, Alex beat the snot out of me after school. My last class, English, was conducted in the east wing of the school, and as I was leaving, she and a group of her pals literally cornered me. Unfortunately, I am always the last person to leave class since I am slow at gathering my belongings, and by the time I exited, most of the students had already left. When I saw Alex and her pals standing outside, I was a little afraid, but I didn't show it because it would only help them win. As I was about to leave the classroom, they came all up in my face and told me I couldn't leave. They forced everyone else in the class to leave and informed me that they needed to settle some scores with me. I tried to remain calm and level-headed so that my worry did not show. But they did not appear to care. Alex grabbed my arm and walked me outside while I begged her to let me go, but everyone else was so noisy that I couldn't be heard. Then, they carried me to the janitor's closet and forced me inside. I kept knocking on the door, but they stood outside, and even if someone heard me, they wouldn't dare to intervene because Alex and her pals are seniors with a bad reputation. After approximately 5 minutes, Alex let me out, but by then, practically everyone had left, leaving me alone with them. When the first smack landed on my face, Alex began yelling at me. She described me as selfish and ungrateful to our parents. Then came the real reason she was so angry. she accused me of being the reason her boyfriend broke up with her. She banged my head into the concrete, and I became disoriented. She took advantage of this by repeatedly hammering me with her fists, while her buddies laughed. It was terribly painful, and I attempted to defend myself. But Alex is several inches taller and considerably heavier, so there wasn't much I could do. At one point, I just cowered against the wall, and she kept beating me. When she was finished, she kicked me one more time before leaving with her buddies while I wailed against the wall. About 15 minutes later, Fiona discovered me sitting on the floor, crying profusely. When I informed her what had happened, she helped me get up, and instead of walking home, we grabbed a cab because I was in no shape to walk. When we came home, we told her parents everything. And they looked glum. They quickly contacted the school, followed by the police. It's barely been an hour, and they've spent the entire time on the phone, but Fiona is taking care of me. I'm fairly bruised up. The bruises are just beginning to show, and everything hurts, but I know Alex will receive her karma for this, and it will come soon. Update 4. Hello? I have a lot of things to say, but I will try to make it short and sweet. Alex banged me up last week, but happily, the school stood up for me. They shared security footage from that part of the building with the police, making it simple to charge her with a misdemeanor. She received community work to compensate for it. But the best part was that she was suspended for the following 6 weeks. That means she won't be able to attend prom, which she was really looking forward to. She will also be seated separately for her finals rather than with the rest of her class, which means she will be unable to scam her way out of them. I believe it is well deserved. And I felt vindicated when Fiona informed me about it all. Another wonderful thing that happened was that following the disaster with Alex, my parents chose to relinquish their rights to me. That's correct, they have terminated their parental rights, and the paperwork has been signed, so I'm finally free, and Fiona's parents are about to legally adopt me. I'm really grateful to them for it. My parents told me that after everything that had happened, they no longer wanted me in their family. I know they'll attempt to make it appear that I'm at fault. But I don't think anyone will believe them. It makes no difference to me if they give it their all. To be honest, I am finally part of a happy family. I can assure you that my new sister and parents will be considerably superior to those I had previously. I can't believe it's finally working out for me. This is possibly the happiest I have felt in a long time. I even forgot about my upcoming finals, but Fiona and I are going to crack on and show everyone what I'm made of. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.